the way to do it, the good way to do it, is always to perform some controls, and not only at the end, but also within the data entry process, because that way you can keep following that you're entering the right information at the right place, and that everything that's expected will be included in your ECOS file. So with this slide, we finish the chapter on the data entry. And the next one will drive us through the data entry at subcontractor level and the integration of the tender files. So you've done your work, and in parallel, your subcontractors are doing their part of the job. So now, in parallel, what you're expecting is actually to receive a tender file from your subcontractors and integrate it to your own share in order to create later on your payment plan, because your payment plan has to include the tender answers from your subcontractors. So here, in order to follow up our process of the data entry at subcontractor level, what we will do is close the ECOSAT prime contractor A ITT file, and normally within the self-training manual we have to perform this data entry for all of the ITTs, and the reason is because we want you to practice. So now that you've learned one time for the company A how to perform the data entries, we would go on and do the same for the power, the batteries, and the TTNC. But in the case of this video training, what I propose is to simply through this slide explain you the process of what's going on at subcontractor level while the prime contractor A is filling in its information. So we would close the file for the company A and load the power ITT for the company B, generate our ITT for the batteries, right, that the company B will send to the company C, enter our own share data as company B for the power. Then we would close the file ready for the power, then load the one for the batteries at company C level, enter the own share of the company C, prepare the file and close it. And the last step will be to load the TTNC ITT that we've already created under the company A. This will be the subcontractor company D, responsible for the TTNC. We would enter its own share data and close the ITT. So this normally takes a long time, and what I propose to do is to show you here the process of the turbo data entry. So in my case here, I will restore later on directly the ITT files ready, and I advise you to do the same in the frame of this video training. Therefore, we can now focus on the turbo data entry. So first, what I would like just to show you is to illustrate what I'm saying here. So if we go back to our industrial bidding team, once again, we get reminded here that the prime company A have issued already the ITT for power and for TTNC, right? So what we want to do now at subcontractor level is we want to fill in the own share for the power, send the ITT for the batteries to the company C, and then at TTNC level we want to enter the own share of the TTNC, taking into account the several budgetary amounts, budgetary subcontractors, etc. But going back to this specific exercise, I think it's really worth spending a bit of time in showing you the turbo data entry for the example of the company D. So if I go to ECOS, now we want to load our ITTTNC that we've created as the company A at the beginning of the project. So I think you see here in your BCK, you can find your file related to TTNC. So you can load it into your ECOS environment. We can call ourselves, now we are the company DDDD related to the TTNC version 1. And I am now the user of DDDD. Okay, so our file has been created, and I will take the training manual on the side just for me to make sure that I follow the steps with you. So if you want to enter the data for the TTNC project file, first we need to create our PTWBS, right? It's always the same process. So here I want to develop my PTWBS for the phase TT. Sorry, I'm trying to open my file at the same time. It's not working very well. Okay. So here you see I've received two nodes from my upper level contractor, which is the node B13 and C13 related to each of the phases. And now I want to develop here under the C13 node the node C131 related to the antenna, the node C132 related to the transponder, and node C133 related to RFDU. Okay. Then I will add some support functions to this product tree. So I'm going here at C13 level and I want to add support. So I'm following here the training manual example where I'm adding the support function to AA to AC to ADD to ADF to ADU to BA. Don't forget to press the control key to keep it pressed. To BD, to BI, to KA, and to KB. Okay. I will have here some budgetary subcontractors amounts, so I need to insert the related support function, you remember, to be defined later. So here, for the antenna, the transponder, and the RFDU, I will be putting some support function to be defined later. And basically by copy pasting this branch under my B13 branch, I will be able to copy paste my PTWBS definition. But in the case of the phase B, I want to keep only these, but I do not have MIIT, so I can delete here the nodes for MIIT, and I do not have GSE, so I can also delete this node. However, I can copy the antenna. You see, it's a matter of practice. Transponder. So from the child node, I copy it under the parent node. So here, copy, and here, paste. So you see, I was able to build quite quickly my product rework breakdown structure for the TTNC. So what we want to do now is to perform turbo data entry. So instead of entering our dates, labor, facilities, and to go through the own share data entries that we've been going through before, there is a simpler way to do it. So here I will go in my summary tab and perform my turbo data entry. So you see here, they ask you always to select a rate file. So you cannot go in the cost data entry mode if you did not first create a rate file. So in this case, at the beginning of the training, we restored some rate files already prepared for us. And in that case, we can select the rate file for the company D. This will allow you to perform your data entries. Also, please note that specific slides regarding the advanced features are available at the end of this presentation as backup slides. So also, once we will reach this topic, there will be the possibility to see exactly the steps and to have more details on the advanced features. So now in the case of the turbo data entry, we have created our PTWBS, and basically what we want to do now is to generate the Excel file, the template that will be used by us in order to import at the correct format the data from Excel. So now I can click on the button here, Generate Turbo, and you get a warning message that tells you that since high volume of data can be modified when using turbo data entry, it's advised to take a backup of the current project. Do you want to take a backup? So in real case scenario, in real life, we advise you, of course, to do it. So here I can create a backup in my BCK directory, and we have here exactly the file name with the dates and so on. So let's say it doesn't cost much just to save a backup once we're working, because once we go in turbo entry mode, it's a bit of a heavy process, and we don't want to lose what we've been already working on, right? So please take backups. So now ECOS is generating this template. What we can do in the meantime, well, let's see. Then we can follow the steps. So you see here, there is a sheet that will be generated with a name already predefined. So in your BCK directory, you can save this file. This will be your turbo data entry template. So I will save it there. And now I can choose my parameters. So there is two types of data entry. You can choose monolithic or vertical versus horizontal grouping. For the purpose of this training, we will go on a monolithic mode. And down below, we see that we can indicate the work packages up and the resources left in lines, or the resources as column and the work packages in line. Now, for this exercise, we keep the first layout, the resources versus work packages. The work packages versus resources, sorry. Sorting order, ECOS, PCWBS coding. Where to export the file location. So this will be in the folder that we've already selected. And if you want to open the spreadsheet directly after the export, we can click on this box. Now, in the meantime, we can go in our goodies folder and retrieve the file that we will be using to enter our informations. So if I go in my support materials, you see here, goodies. Turbo generation process is successfully finished. Okay. Be aware that if you... Yes, okay. So in your goodies, you have to open the file that is called ttnc erp version 2. I will open it also for you in a moment. Okay, so this is the file we want to open. This file contains the data that are already pre-filled in, but we look together. Okay, so then I want this on the side. Okay. So in fact, now what you've been doing is generating this template, right? That ECOS generates automatically for you. So you can see here that at the top on the columns title, you can find the work packages, the contractual phase that we've been already entering as part of our product tree, the information related to the rate file, such as the profit, and here we have a green zone where we will be able to perform our own data entries. So you remember in our rate file we have manager, engineer, technicians, we have some facilities, we have each item of our other direct costs that are listed here, and our budgetary amounts, WACC or subcos. So you see basically this structure follows the data entry that we've been performing before. And if we fill in the green cells the proper way, then we will be able in ECOS to directly retrieve all of this data instead of going to the cost tab and filling it everything one by one. So if I look now at my yellow table, these are the information that we want to fill in for the company D. Normally, we also do it together and we do it manually and we give you the time to do it. But once again, for the purpose of this video training, we'll take the template as it is. So basically, this is your first line here where you have the faces, and here are already the dates pre-filled in. So very important, you really have to follow this format for Excel to perform the verifications and be able to import properly the information in ECOS. So in the case of the Excel file, there is no tilde between the year and the month. So if you want to enter June 2012, you have to enter 1206 altogether. Then you have here information on the price types, the distribution profile, and all of this costs information. So here we can find again the hours, the days for the facilities, and down below, all of the other direct costs will have one line related to the company associated, the currency, and the amount. So if you have all of this information, you can fill it in the proper box related to the work package versus the cost item. And then finally at the bottom, the subcos. It's the same principle. You can add the company. So you remember, if you add a country code, this will become a budgetary subco amount. If you keep your company code, this will be a WAC, cost without additional charges. Then you can fill in the currency, the amount as well. And finally, there is this line here for descriptions, where you can fill in the title that you want to give to your budgetary amounts. So now you're going through these entries. And once this file is prepared, what we can do now is copy paste. I think we can copy paste everything. Let's see. So if we select all of the yellow cells, the yellow information, and if we click on Control C, then we go into our template file here. So we pay attention to go on the right cell. So in this case here, we want to place our mouse on the column H4, on the cell H4, and we can click here on Paste External. Do not Control V because there is some formatting proper to this Excel file. Therefore, you really have to click on Paste External. So now it's creating some kind of interface with ECOS where you can follow here the status of the copy of your data. That can take a bit of time, but at the end it's just making sure that all of the informations are entered at the right format. So this is what we call here the validation process. So basically, if the data is at the proper format, we'll have a button which will turn green. It means that all data are validated. So then this Excel file will be ready to be imported back in ECOS. So you see here, now I can open it better, all of your information has been properly filled in the right cells related to the good work package. And therefore, the last step here now is to click on Data Validation Required at the top left of your screen, this red button here. Now the process goes. So, all data verified, Turbo Data Entry is ready to be imported into ECOS. So if I click on OK, you see here the button turned green, which means all data has been validated. So it's a really good news because it means that in really no time we will be able to perform our cost data entries. So let's see. I can close this file for now. I remember that this is yes. I want to save it. And I remember that this is in my BCK directory. So now back in ECOS, I can import Turbo, right? I've exported it to generate my template, and now my template has been filled in, so I want to import it back. So here I can retrieve my ECOS file, my template. And wait a minute, just cross fingers and see if it worked. Import process successfully finished. So in fact, this is a really powerful tool for you to perform your data entries, because if you see how long we've been doing the data entry for the company A and how fast it was for the company D, we can see that there is a real added value in applying the Turbo data entry process to perform your data entries. You really have to make sure that you are entering the data in the proper way and in the proper format. That's why I really invite you to look in details and to spend a bit of time on the format of this Excel file. You will have it available, so you can really look at it. Pay attention to the dates format, pay attention to the percentages, the number of, if there is a comma or a dot. Just make sure to reproduce exactly the same format, and then you will have no bad surprises, and you will be able to easily validate your data and import all of your cost information into the cost file. Now, you still have to remember that we've been entering everything that is part of the cost tab environment. However, the travel plan, if you remember, we have to click on an external window to enter it. The Exhibit A are also external notes to this cost tab. And I think that's it. So those still remains to be entered manually. Now what we've been doing, if we go back to the cost tab, is entering all of the informations that are at the core layout of ECOS data entry. So you see here we could have entered header, we can enter labor hours, facilities, other direct costs, WAC and sub, start and end date, price tab, and distribution profile. We can enter all information available in this screen. However, travel plan here and Exhibit A remains to be defined manually. So we've been entering the own share of our subcontractors, and now the next step is to generate the subcontractors' tender files. So you have to produce the tender files and to integrate them through each level of the contractual organization, all the way to the lower level subcontractor, to get the complete aggregation of the total price to ESA. This file is a sealed and protected version of the project. Your tender file is like a static image of your tender. So when we took the example of the kitchen, the project file is the kitchen itself, and the tender file is the result, right? It's your dish, the result of your cooking. This, you can recognize it with the extension .ten, and this file has to be included in your ITT package together with the rest of the financial proposal information in your data pack. This is from the tender answers that you will be able to print your PSSA forms. You cannot print the BSSA forms as part of your project files. You can, but we will notice, and this is not the good way to do it, because your tender answer is the picture at a point in time, and what we want is to be able to access the PSSA forms at a point in time as well. It has to be defined. So the tender answer will allow you to print these forms. You can produce as many versions of the tender as necessary. We will see it, and we've seen it already once issuing the tenders, that you can give it the name version 1 or version 2, version 3. If you're not satisfied, you can always go back to your project file, make some changes, and issue a new tender. This is absolutely up to you. And if you make a very big change, please save the files first, because it can impact also your entire data entry, and it would be a pity for you to lose what you've been entering. So before producing the tender or before doing any modification, please always make sure that you save a copy of your file. For example, after negotiations, it's possible that you have to adjust some values as a result of these negotiations. So you can do it. You can reissue a new tender file by giving it another version name and present an updated tender file to ESA. Just for you to note how to analyze the quality of the received tender files. So if I'm the prime contractor and I receive the tender answers from my subcontractors, load and open the file. Check if the contractual phases are matching yours. This is very important, otherwise you will not be able to integrate them. If not, you can always ask your subcontractor to make the changes in its own project file and issue a new updated tender file for you to integrate. And please note that there is also the possibility to perform some edits if you have time constraints, and because it's possible that the entire process got late into the elaboration of the proposal. So here you can actually do some global changes. So we'll see in the advanced features how to do these global changes, but it has to remain exceptional because it's not, of course, the right way to work. We want to have data that is accurate and that has been properly calculated, but we keep this option available because, yeah, it is really possible that you are getting late into the elaboration of the file. So we recommend to avoid it, but if you cannot, then I will show you a simple way to perform changes in your tender files. So what we want to do here is to generate the tender files for the batteries, the power, and the TTNC. So I will show you an example for the batteries for the company C, and we will understand it is the same for the power and the TTNC. So we will be able to restore backups. So first, what you really have to keep in mind is, again, the process. So for the batteries, we've been entering our own shared data, right? Then the next step is to see if we have integrated our tenders, finally create our payment plan, and produce our own tender answer. So what I would like to do, in fact, is to drive you back few slides before through the process again. Okay. So here you remember at prime contractor level that we enter our own shared data and then integrate our subcontractor's tender answer. Once integrated, produce our payment plan and our own integrated tender answer. Now we are in the frame of this chapter at subcontractor level. So the previous exercise, we've been entering our own share data. Now we as subcontractors have to integrate our own tender answers from our own subcontractors, prepare our payment plan, and send an integrated tender answer, including our payment plan and therefore the one of all our subcontractors, up at prime contractor level. So what I need you here to understand is that we keep the frame of the company A, which means that now in this chapter, I simply want to confirm that my subcontractors have entered their own share, have integrated their data, have produced their payment plan, and will send back a tender answer to me. Afterwards, we will integrate our own tender answers and prepare our payment plan. So because I don't want to duplicate the exercises and I really want you to go through the process, for what concerns the subcontractors, we are restoring backups, right? We're not doing the same exercise twice. So now we've been entering our own shared data. We are just going to double check that within our tender answers, our subcontractors have integrated their files, have entered their payment plan, and we will issue their tender. That we will retrieve ourselves. But if you have not seen yet the concepts of integration and payment plan, this is normal. This will come at the next chapter. So now back to our exercise. Basically what we will do is, by generating a tender file for the batteries, we'll have to open the file. So let's do it together. I have to retrieve my files as well. Okay. So from our project archives, we can here go and find the ITT file for batteries. So this is that one, 2021, because we've been already entering the informations in the real case of the training. And basically, before generating the tender, we will check that the data entry has been performed, that the tenders have been integrated, and that the payment plan have been entered. If those information are available, then we will be able to issue our tender answer. Okay, so maybe let's go directly to the summary tab, so then we will have a view on all work packages and data entry that has been performed. Okay, so we can see here that we have our travel plans for the management work packages. We have hours, labor, facilities, other direct costs, indirect, etc., even some co-funding. So it seems that our data entry have been successfully completed. Now, we can go into the integration tab, which is the tab after the cost tab. And if you follow, this goes in the right order. You see, first you have some information, then you build your PTWBS, enter the first set of information in the summary tab, enter the big part of your data entries in the cost tab, and then the next step now is to integrate. So what we can see here is that we have indeed a file for the company C related to the own share, and that there is no budgetary subcos. And indeed, if you remember, in our industrial scenario, under the company B, we have no subcontractors, no lower level. Therefore, you do not need to integrate, right? So now, what we want to do next is to make sure that the payment plan have been entered. So every time you go to your tender answer, you just have to make sure that you've integrated before your potential tender answer from your lower levels. And this tab will allow you to enter your payment plan and to issue your tender answer. You cannot issue your tender answer if you have not entered a payment plan. This is mandatory. So if we go back to our slide, so you remember we open the file. We want to make sure that our file is integrated if it needs to be. We want to check if there is a payment plan entered. This is the case here. You see that we have some milestones, some percentages per phase, and some amounts. So we will definitely come back in details soon in this exercise, so then you will be able to enter the payment plan for the company A and understand how this screen works. But here, in a nutshell, what we see is that we have here a payment plan built for the company C. How do we produce our tender file from this tab? So we have to go down below and indicate the information at the bottom. It's the same principle that with the ITT. When you issue it, you want to indicate some references and some information. Then you have to save it, and the system will ask you if you want to load the file for verification. So we will also load it to check if our information is correct. So you see here, down below, you have a payment plan for each of your phases. So it turned green, which means that you are covered. You can choose the visibility here of your rates. You can have them visible or hidden. So by default, we are asking you to show visible rates because this is important, of course, for the evaluation. But there was some possibility in the past to have hidden rates for companies with specific needs, but here in the context of the evaluations, this is not the case, so please keep the rates visible. And down below, we can create our Thunder 122, which will be the answer of our ITT 122 related to the batteries. The user is user as CCCC. File name is battery CCCC. And you can see here this little tick box, load and open. So this is the option for you to open the file directly once it's generated from ECOS. So we'll click on this tick box. And once again, my location here is my BCK directory. So now I'm sure that all of my steps have been completed, right? I have a WBS. I entered my cost data. I've integrated my potential tenders. I've built my payment plan. I can issue my tender file. So I can click on Save As. Tender answer has been successfully stored in my BCK. Perfect. So now I will have in my BCK directory a .ten file. And you see here, I can choose to open it. So reference number does not matter much. So we can say reference CCCC version 1 loaded by myself. So user as CCCC. The loading has been successfully completed. Perfect. So where we want to bring our attention to in this screen here is that in fact you see at the bottom our tabs are different. So this is because we are now in a tender file. So you notice that the WBS, the cost, summary, tender, and integration tabs are not available anymore because we don't want anymore to work on this file. This is the static picture of our tender at this specific point in time. So what we can do here with this file is in fact to go on the extra tab and you can have a look here at the payment plan, the overall price of your tender, and your geographical distribution. So here you can simply verify the informations and see if what you've entered is correct. And afterwards you can click on the Subcontractors tab, where here you will have very important overview on all your bidding consortiums. So who is part of this tender answer what's the price, what are the entities associated, what are the starting date and end date. So now, of course, we have only one company, but if we had integrated some other subcontractors, we would have here a list of tenders that have been participating to this tender file. So this is the type of information that you have access to, and this is where you're going to produce your PSS forms from. So we've done now the generation of the tender file for the batteries. So in the case of the training manual, we keep going by generating the tender file for the power and integrate the tender for the batteries, and finally generate the tender file for the TTNC. So because we will perform integration in the next exercise, I will go directly to the next slide. Replace your budgetary subco provisions. So remember that the budgetary subco are standing here for you to account for a provision when you do not have your subcontractors already defined in your industrial chain. But once you do, you will have to expect a tender file from them. So once the contract is awarded, you can replace your budgetary provision by the subcontractor tender that you will receive. Therefore, you will be able to slowly integrate from your subcontractors down below and prepare the conversion to firm fixed price of the phase CD, which price type is selling price to be converted in a firm fixed price. So we can go through an example together, and I will show you how to replace these budgetary amounts that we've been entering at company A level and be able to show some tender answers instead. So replace the budgetary provisions with the subco tender. We have here to close our battery file and to reopen ECOSAT at A level, right? So let's go back in ECOS. We can go in our project archives and retrieve the ECOSAT project file. RFAAA, yeah, this is the one. So here we write copy ECOSAT and open ECOSAT version 2. So this is just for you because it's a good practice, of course, to keep your file with your budgetary provisions and to create a copy on which you can work to integrate and replace your budgetary provisions with the tenders. Also because the company can send you maybe several tenders, or maybe the integration will not be performed successfully at the beginning. So it's always safe to keep your own entries, including the budgetary provisions, if you've built your file already. So now we are the company A, and we've received a tender file. So we can say, if we go back to our industrial picture, okay, so here we are the company A, and we can say that we've received a file for the data handling, right? So here we see that the company C is in fact the defined subcontractor for the data analytics subsystem. So I've been entering already a budgetary amount in my nodes B14 and C14. So I can now replace it with the tender file received for the company C. So while you receive this file from your subcontractors, we advise you to put it directly in your BCK directory. So in my case, I will go in the goodies in our supporting materials and check if this is there. Yes. So I invite you to do the same. We can find here in the goodies, in the training support file, in the folder tenders, you have here a tender file for the data handling company C that has been already prepared. So if you want to be able to use it in your ECOS environment, we advise you to copy it and to paste it in your BCK directory. So back in my BCK directory, here I can paste it. I have it already because I've done that training before, but I can click on replace and here I have a file, data handling CCCC. So then the next step will be to define and issue the ITTs, because for ECOS to recognize this file, this tender answer, we need to associate the related ITT, because there were no ITT at the time of the budgetary subscope provision, but now there is one. So I can go back to ECOS, and here in my WBS tab, I can expand, have a look at my product tree work breakdown structure, and here I can define an ITT for the data handling. So we can see here in my ITT box they have some tilde ITT number. This means that they are the budgetary subco. But now I want to have a proper ITT reflecting on this subsystem. So I can here add an ITT, which will be the ITT 4. Data handling. So I can find it in my list here, and you remember just by dragging and dropping the related nodes in my ITT content, I can here issue a new ITT. So this is the ITT 4 that will be placed in my BCK directory. The user as AAAA. Okay. Okay. So you see here, you can note that ECOS already realized that there were an overlap between these branches that you've assigned at the beginning as budgetary, and now the fact that they have a real ITT associated to it. So it's also a good way for you to follow your contractual files and see where you stand. So now we can see that this branch is in fact associated to both. I imagine that if you go to the summary tab, there is also this overlap that you can easily recognize. Indeed, you see here in orange, the change of color means that there is an overlap identified. So in the case of the data handling, we have and a budgetary subscope provision and an ITT. So in order to replace our budgetary subscope with a real ITT, we can go to the integration tab. And as you can see here, there is already our ITT4 identified. The reason is that in this screen, ECOS tries to retrieve the ITTs with their related tenders, and by using the key reference numbers that we enter in the system, ECOS is able in your BCK directory to find the matching tender file related to its ITTs, because now we've created an ITT and we are giving back a tender answer. So in the case of this screen, what we want to do here is to basically, here we have some budgetary amounts, and the data handling here is now 3,000, right? So by clicking in this ITT box, basically we select this tender, which was not yet selected. You can check here the icon. So I want to select this tender 4 and to integrate it. So in order to integrate, you can click on this, I don't know the name in English to be honest, but I think you know what I mean. And click on integrate tenders. So that will take a bit of time for ECOS to bring all of the information together and to do the calculation in a way that will take into account the tender information, but not anymore the budgetary subco amount. So we will see then at the end of the process, normally we should have less amount in the budgetary subco and an integrated tender, including the price of the data handling subsystem. And please note that the integration process can take indeed a bit of time, and especially when you have, of course, a long list of tenders and budgetaries. In this case, it should not be so long, but when you see at the bottom of the screen, ECOS is working, and you can follow the integration process here. Integration successfully completed. So you can see here that our line now related to the ITT4 have been integrated in our price. And if we sum up, indeed, we arrive with this 19 million. Now, a good way to check if this was well covered, so this do not take into account because this line is also because I have another file in my BCK directory that ECOS is also retrieving. But now we don't want this, we want the ITT4 and Thunder 4 data and link subsystem. So in order to check that this integration was successful, we can go back to the summary tab and once again have a look at our color background. Because remember, it was orange because we had an overlap between the budgetary subco amounts and the ITTs. So our line turned gray, which means that the corresponding provisions are not included anymore in the total price. And you can check here and you can have a look at the column subco, where you see that for the data and link, the amount has been put in the column of the subcontractors integration. And you even see here part of ITT, ITT4. So this is really a good way for you to check that the budgetary subco amount has been replaced by the tender answer. So indeed we've been through the integration tab, performed the tender integration, and checked the summary tab to see that the replacement have been successfully completed. So now we will be finally going through the process of the integration of our own subcontractors' tender answers. So we are now the company A. We've been entering our own share data. Now the next step is to integrate the tender answers that we've prepared now from our subcontractors, create our payment plan, and build our own tender integrated answer. So we've seen already the process of the integration through our lower level subcontractors. You remember that in order to create their tender file, we had to retrieve their own share, verify that there was an integration performed together with a payment plan. And now we will do the same at our level, at prime contractor level, and more in details, of course. Then we've also seen the integration process in the previous slide when we want to replace the budgetary subco provisions with our actual tender answers when the company's subcontracting have been identified. Now this is the integration process by itself. So you are already familiar with it because we've been already on the integration tab. And basically now what we want to do as the company A, we have two main ITTs. We had the ITT for power and the ITT for TT&C. So we will now retrieve these tender files and integrate them into our own share. So first we will integrate the tender answer for the power. And remember, in order to do that, we can go to our ECOS project file, go to the integration tab, select our tender, click on integrating tender, and check that the integration have been successfully completed. Now, remember that in order for you to see this tender in your screen, you need to copy it and paste it into your BCK directory. So now the first thing we will do is to retrieve this tender 12, which is as part of our goodies. So let me reopen my goodies once again. Okay. So here in the goodies, we have some tenders, and we'll be able to find the tender for the power. So I can copy the tender for the power received from my company B into my BCK directory, power final. Okay. So let's see now back in ECOS how this will work. Going to the integration tab, we see that the conditions that we need to have are respected. For the power, we have an ITT 12, and we will retrieve a tender 12. So we can see it here. So the file that I've been loading here is this one, the power final BBBB. I have, again, a lot in my BCK directory, so I may have plenty of examples. But in this case, what the screen tells us is that there is a tender answer as part of our ITT 12. So in order to perform the integration, it's exactly the same that with replacing the budgetary subco amounts. We simply need to select and click on Integrate Tender. So really remember that replacing your subcos and integrating your tender answers is going through the same process. The only difference is that at the end of the budgetary subco tender integration, you will be able to see overlaps solved from the orange zone to the gray zone. And in the case of the integration, there is no such thing. It's simply going to be a price that's integrated. This is the result of your integration. ECOS will calculate the integrated price to ESA. So in the case of the power, if you remember, we had also some other subcontractors, the battery and some budgetaries, etc. So that's why it also can take a bit of time, especially if the tender answer also includes some integrations. Okay, the integration have been successfully completed. We can do now the same for integrating the tender answer for the TTNC. So we will not do it here, but please feel free to do exactly the same exercise to practice and to retrieve the tender 13 as an answer to the ITT 13 for the TTNC.